go, William.
Welcome to Investigators News. This is William's, I don't know what to call it, my bouncing news blotter, I guess. It's the 15th day of May here in the year of our Lord 2023, and the Iowa politicians are beginning their presidential politics. So everybody gets their seatbelts on and get ready for all the crazy news of politics you never wanted to hear. So anyway, I've got a bunch of different things. They're in no particular order, but we're going to go through them here a little bit. So Redacted on YouTube says Zelensky has canceled elections in Ukraine. That cannot bode well for the Ukrainian government. At any time you cancel elections in a country, you're playing with fire. So we're going to have to watch and see how this goes. I'm concerned with Ukraine right now because it is stagnating on its war front. And there's some other things going on we'll discuss later, but Zelensky has canceled their spring offensive for the time being until they can get armed up. And it appears the Russians are having their fair share of issues with commanders, and they're being able to get their different weapon systems and weapons, ammunition to the right places at the right time. So we'll be seeing what happens with that here in the future. Now, moving on. RFK gave Justin Trudeau the old tongue lashing. Says he's a bit of a totalitarian up there in Canada. So our Soviet socialist leader of Canada, Justin Trudeau, or King Justin Trudeau, isn't doing too well with some of our politicians. I can see where he doesn't like him. He's not that particularly a likable character. Now, some folks are starting to say that Ukraine is in systemic failure, and that BlackRock, the big investment house, is going to take over what's left of Ukraine. I certainly hope not. Not just because I like the people of Ukraine, first of all, and second of all, I really dislike BlackRock and its leadership. All right, here we go, moving on. Now, Imran Khan has been freed, Pakistan. So what we've got there is the U.S.-backed junta, or coup, in Pakistan has, well, backfired big. So we better be watching for what the blowback is from Pakistan. It can't be good, and perhaps the United States shouldn't be into the changing of leadership in countries. People tend to have the leaders they want. Now, so I have a question. Is the rush that's going on at our southern border here in the United States a war by some other means, a human wave war? There's been some questions in the media about whether that's actually the case. Okay. Not staying with that for very long because that's a topic a lot of people don't really want to hear about, and I don't blame them. It's been covered in the news and ad nauseum, but it is a serious problem on our border. What to do with 7 million people that have made it their way in the United States is a concern. All right. we have a major newspaper in New York, the New York Times, is labeled the War Room with Stephen Bannon and I might add the sweet Miss Natalie Winters as the #1 for spreading misinformation. There's a badge of honor. Like to see that. I'm sure Steve and Natalie are giving themselves a high fives on that one. The New York Times is labeling them the #1 spreaders of misinformation. They're right at the top of the news dissemination group on social media. Okay. So the next oddity, there's now some financial reports between Hunter and prostitutes, and that's they're finding and in Congress. So here's hoping that the prostitutes cleaned Hunter out of some cash. So much for Hunter. Kentucky. The Kentucky candidate for Secretary of State's promising to clean up voter rolls. Well, that's good news. Here's hoping that maybe he wins if he's a good fit for Kentucky and for the rest of the country. All right, we have a problem with our Border Patrol. So they now have tags they put on the people's bags that are entering the country. So what they do is the people write their name and whatnot on them. And then they go to be processed without their bags to the local Border Patrol station. And then the Border Patrol comes and picks up their bags and brings them to them. A new Border Patrol concierge service. There's something for our tax dollars to be being spent on. However, if you do have to move a lot of people and a lot of bags, it is really a lot easier to palletize them and move them all at one time. So, but the people are just writing their name on it, whatever name they decide they're going to be crossing the border, because, they've tossed their IDs usually by then. But, yeah, the new concierge service. Also, Ellie and I were noticing that everybody's getting a blue bag that's coming across the border. Turns out that there's some things in it like toothbrush and maybe one of those space blankets, candy bars, some water. So if you've seen the blue handbag with folks, that's what that is. Okay, moving on. People from last night, there was a big wave of people, and you would not believe where they're coming from. They're coming from Moldova. Moldova's right next to Ukraine. They're coming from Sudan, which is, in the middle of the Civil War, and Egypt. I got no idea why Egyptians are bailing and coming to our southern border. Also, we've had quite a few Chinese. None of these groups are to the south of us. They're rather more over the top of the pole and then on the south of us. They're the other side of the planet. They're coming to the United States. So what to think about that? Anyway, the group that came through last night was the biggest that had ever been seen by some of the Border Patrol folks. So hopefully their bags are handled properly and they get them picked up. I guess the next thing is the airport carousel for them. Moving on. The House Republicans now have receipts of President and the CCP infiltration and possible collusion. It's of interest. It's out there. Okay, moving on. We have some Democrats in Indiana that have been charged because they've committed some major financial crimes in their in the Indiana DNC party. Wow, that's a surprise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not so much. Okay, Maria Bartiromo, I hope I said her name right. She's quite a nice lady. And Chairman Representative James Comer say they have an FBI whistleblower informant that's gone rather missing. Not good. Hopefully he's just laying low and has not truly disappeared for us. That's really bad information. Turns out an individual within the CIA broke some major federal laws by organizing the 100 laptop petition during the last election, saying that it was, kind of the far thing, maybe Russian information. So there's quite a push in Congress, and they're saying somebody must face justice on this, or the federal law of the agencies getting involved in politics will be null and void. Watch out. Somebody that's on the bottom rung of that deal, who had the least to do with it and has the least political power, expect to get jumped on and pay the price for all. That's usually how that goes. All right. Here's some great news. The former President Trump tells General Michael Flynn if he wins the next election in 24 that he's going to bring the general back into the administration. Good news for the general. Hey, like to see that. Like to see some good news. That's good news. All right. Steve Bannon on some of the major news feeds is saying that we need to skip impeachment of Mayorkas. And the reason he's saying that is it would take up too much time, and that he believes they need to just jump over Mayorkas and impeach DOJ's Garland and President Biden instead. And then go after, say, Mayorkas, and if I might add, Lincoln. Okay, moving on from that. But if you think about it, Mayorkas has taken up a whole lot of news time, and we all know his story. So he says, so our systems are working very hard. We need a few more dollars to get everything done. The border is closed. We have a process, blah, 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 and it's utter chaos. So, good news from DHS, Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. Moving on. In court, in Maricopa County, attorney, the Maricopa County attorney admits in court that signature verification is subjective, and is actually not science. Well, there's a surprise. Didn't see that one coming. Great job, attorney. Glad you caught on to that. No. Here we go. Bud Light and the Budweiser brands are plummeting or tanking financially. They're down 29%. Well, there goes profits. Hey, good news for our friends from Austria, or our Austrian friends that own Budweiser. Hey guys, some of that CRT stuff doesn't work well. Okay, moving on. The number is now 170 suspicious activity reports that the GOP has now reviewed. On Biden's financial transaction with a whole bunch of these LLC corps, and I believe also with some of these public-private partnerships. And so, yeah, he's looking at some difficulty there. I'm thinking Garland's not going to touch this, but we'll have to see in the future. The House is really putting some pressure on the DOJ to do something with this. We'll have to see what happens. By the way, after all this good work, looking at these activity reports by the GOP, has anybody heard from the GOP chair? You know, the niece of Senator Mitt Romney, Ronna McDaniels. Is she missing in action or something? Maybe on a worldwide, I don't know, cruise, whatever. Where is her? Where is she? I haven't seen hide or hair of her on the news. Maybe I just missed her. I could have just missed her. But, gee, there's a lot going on with the GOP, and I'm just not hearing from the chair. All right. Danny Bongino, he has that nice show on Rumble, and he's saying that, you know, there's that guy we can't really say his name, you know, his last name, so I'm just going to call him Sorry George. So
Papa George.
So, yeah, Sorry George or George Sorry.
Or
anyway,
Papa George is what they call him. Daddy.
Yeah, so it turns out that he's a major man in the power that's defending some of the shenanigans going on now in Congress, and he's using it as a way to defend those he wants and using his power to instill fear in those he doesn't like. And he's the right-hand man of our close friend Klaus Schwab. Everybody knows him from the over the pond. I don't know, what we call him, Prophet of Doom. 15-minute city boy. I'm going to have to come up with a name for him. Anyway, Soros has been the right-hand man, and I guess you'd call Hillary, by marriage, the left-hand lady. Apparently, Soros and family doesn't mind a little bit of satanic worship.
Did you hear about him, William? Did you hear about him complaining, and he went viral, and it didn't work out well? He said there is rumors about him that he doesn't like. Yeah, there's rumors, and he said they're completely false. And that his boy.
I mean, when you say rumors, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, hey, William, light a cigarette and listen. Go ahead.
He didn't have a heart attack.
Oh, well, that's good to hear, I suppose.
You know, William, when I heard that, when I seen the article, it was with the New York Post, and it said, rumors. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And it's like, really? He didn't have a heart attack, and he's not near death. Okay. And it said nothing about him and what he was doing.
So we shouldn't wish ill will on people, right? And it's a good
I never said he had a heart attack. I never said he was near death.
And I'm wondering, how would he feel with that? That was pretty painful. Oh, we can't think that way, can we?
Yeah, and he got on Twitter and it cracks me up. Rumors that I had a heart attack are completely false. I'm alive and healthy. I didn't die. Well,
He's alive and well or wealthy.
alive and healthy, and he's 92
Oh,
years old.
oh, good. Maybe he'll live to be, 209. Thank goodness for us, right?
And
Well,
I like the reply on the first reply to that statement said, "Sure, are a whole lot of people unhappy about your replies? What's that all about?" Um, yeah, they're. I think they all wanted to hear something different. So go ahead, William. Go on to the next one. And I
something
just
for
wanted
me
to
or
jump in and
something
let you
about
know about Soros
something for
saying,
me or something about Sorry George.
"Yeah." I
Well, which
really
one?
thought
I'm
he was going to
confused.
say, I'm not paying DAs. I'm not paying anybody. I'm not. I thought that's what the thing was going to be about. And then, when I read it, I was like, um, kind of like, what's Karen say? It's time to throw the popcorn.
Oh, you know what we ought to do? You know how they have those potato cannons? We ought to have a competition on a popcorn cannon. Something
Yeah.
you could really launch it all over the living room at one shot. Something that take you 2 or 3 days to clean up because you find popcorn every place. That's what I think.
Boy, I tell you, I got this thing for Orville Redenbacher's bucket popcorn, William. I ate one whole bucket by myself and a half a bucket yesterday. Boy, I had a bellyache all evening long. I love that stuff. So, all right, so get on with it, and I might have one more unless you want me to throw it in real quick.
Well, whatever you want to do. I mean, this is really a show brought to everybody by you, and I'm a co-host that's
Okay, well,
with the mostest, and I like to do this. So I've got plenty of news here to keep
okay,
going.
so former AOCA Justine Medina now works as New York's Communist Party boss.
Well, there's a surprise, Ellie. Communist? Huh. Go from Democrat to communist? Holy moly! There's a surprise. I'm 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 shocked. Shocked, Ellie.
Maybe it's only because she was only getting 35,000 a year for 4 months worth of work at
Well, there's a
AOC's
reason to start
office.
drinking. Should I just go to the bottle
Well,
or
you know
what?
what her dad came out this morning and said on the media, we were Cubans. We fought to getting out of communist Cuba to come to the country to be free. And we fought and we taught her communism was bad. And her dad don't understand, and even her mom, that how could she become communist and do something like this when they had taught her that communist was bad.
She was programmed by the deep state cult.
Yeah, she was part of the squad. She was doing all the
Oh,
advertisement,
by
and
the cult.
she did all
She
the.
would have to be deprogrammed to even understand the other side, her parents' point of view at this point.
Yeah.
Her poor parents.
And um, what she has been doing is she was a part of the squad, and she was doing advertisement and setting them up with appointments for the squad when they had speaking arrangements, and wrote most of their speeches. So, wow, what's AOC we thought was really ditzy. It was just this Medina lady.
So she was the hand behind the puppets.
I guess so.
Well, that's strange that happens. Could you even imagine a leader in the United States not being in the full amount of their faculties and having somebody else do all all their administrative stuff and choosing their beliefs and when they go to sleep and where they go on their vacations. Could you even imagine that would happen? Well,
Yeah.
I sure can.
Well,
never happened.
this is what she said. She said, well, I am a communist, but I work for AOC. She proudly, in a tweet from October 2020, said, communism is about equality, democracy, peace, and the advancement of workers. It is to bring up the oppressed and humanity in general.
Okay, so here's my retort to that. The Russia in 1917 had a Bolshevik revolution for communism. Okay, it cost them 70 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 170 million people, Russia lost 70 million people. Oh yeah, communism is really good at becoming producing equality in the grave, equality in not being able to buy things like cheese, equality on finding, their alcohol in aircraft parts and stuff like that because they can't produce enough during the communist era. Oh yeah, it was wonderful. She's done her homework. She's been programmed, you know that.
I don't think her dad I don't know. I'm gonna have to give her dad a few days and see what else he comes up with. It's almost like that lady in Haiti that took them kids for sex trafficking, and her dad and mom came forward and said that yes, she did this. She was arrested, and they did not know where her mind was at. They said 5G back then. I mean, you got to think of when Haiti went down. So
I can tell you where her mind was, Ellie. But I'm not a really nice guy when it comes to that sort of thing. And I spent a lot of time in the military, and we come up with some real distinctive euphemisms. So where was her mind? Just think about a real dark, warm place. Okay, moving on.
Onward, yeah. Go ahead. I'll shut up for a while.
So,
I'll poke you in a minute.
Pardon?
I'll poke you in a minute.
Okay. Just as long as it doesn't hurt too much. Okay, moving on. Our fine friend at Department of Homeland at Homeland Security, Director Mayorkas, turns out he agrees with Biden on his the problems that the country's having. And so it turns out that white supremacy is the nation's biggest number one threat for him and Biden. It's not terrorists crossing our border. It's not a proxy war with Russia. Couldn't possibly be that. Possible war with Communist China over Taiwan and control of the Taiwan Straits and South China Sea shipping and, the general peace of the South China region. That couldn't possibly be the number one threat. It's white supremacy. Okay, he agrees. Moving on. Migrant madness. Sean Hannity says the border control facility is at 6 times its capacity. It's over capacity by 6 times, and with what looks to be, fit military-aged men. No women or children inside it. That's got to be good news. It means that the system's working. Mayorkas was right. Mm-hmm. All right. Miranda Devine. We've heard of her in the news. She's been pretty good at digging up information. She's kind of like our little gal, Natalie Winters, over there at the War Room. CIA to deceive the voters. Can you believe that, Ellie?
Yeah.
The CIA, somebody in the CIA, was interested in deceiving the voters on behalf of Biden and the DNC.
Yep.
I can't imagine. That's possible to believe. Shocked. I'm shocked. Moving on. So, on Shanity, the fabulous, I might add, I like her. And the fabulous, I like her. Moving on. The fabulous Nancy Mace, representative in Congress, has called on the DOJ to investigate the financial dealings between hostile foreign governments and President Biden and his family. I'm trying to see what my notes were. Can you say to the DOJ, it's going to fall on deaf ears. We're sorry, Nancy. You're such a good representative. We'll see what happens. Don't think much is going to happen. Okay. So Senator Ted Cruz, now he's from Texas, and he used to do court filings for the Supreme Court, so he's not completely dense. And it turns out he's saying on the Main Street media that what's going on at our border, southern border, and to a degree our northern border, is nothing less than an invasion.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we've been seeing way too many Chinese and Venezuelans coming across the border.
Mm-hmm.
So who are the majority of those coming across the border? What is Venezuela? A communist state. What is China? Oh, a communist state. What are the odds? Anyway, open border. And then he's got this quip. He says, why are the Democrats not at the border? Why are the Democrats not at the border? And he says, well, they simply do not care. But if AOC's, right-hand puppet master is communist, that's a big surprise. Shocked again. I don't know what I'm going to do. What should I do, Ellie? How can I move on from this?
Well, did you hear about Sullivan going over to China? Not Blinken, they made a fool of him. So they sent Sullivan this time, and they're saying that the balloon thing, it's now time to get over that.
So, what's Sullivan's first name? I forgot.
I don't know. He's a Hillary
Well, anyway,
lawyer.
Sullivan is at the White House. He's part of the National Security Council. Now, since when does the National Security Council go to a competitor communist nation? Since when? When has that happened before?
It should have been
I
Blinken.
haven't heard of that. Department of State, yeah. The president and his entourage, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But by themselves, the National Security Council, what the hell? That's wrong. That's just wrong. I'll add my little naughtiness to it. Sick and wrong. Okay, moving on. So we have a former Marine that's been taken into custody, Mr. Daniel Penny. He surrendered himself to the police station because he's been charged for second-degree manslaughter for protecting those folks on the subway that day. Let me get a drink here. My lips are sticking to, I don't know, the back of my throat or something. Anyway, he showed himself to be a good, law-fearing American. There was no, trauma or anything. He just went right in and surrendered himself. I have one thing to say to a former Marine. And, you know, once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Got news. I say to him, good luck and Semper Fi. To our good Marine friend, Daniel Penny, I hope that that this charge, which I think is rooted in bigotry, because of, if you look at the Black Lives Matter folks that came out and got all upset. Now, when he put that man in a chokehold to disable him, he put him into a rest position afterwards. He didn't double him over. He didn't make it so he couldn't breathe. He just put him in a control state. This guy was on drugs. I'm sure of it. And we keep seeing this where folks pass away. They either get themselves so wound up that their bodies can't catch up afterwards. Now, we've seen that with people that have been charged. I can't remember the term they use for it, but it's some sort of super excitement. And then as soon as they come down from that excitement, all you have to do is put them in a cell or something like that to rest, and they will pass away from that excitement because their bodies can't catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame to see. I hope that probably happened to, I think that's what probably happened to this guy on the subway, because he was acting very, very
Crazy.
excited, very, very erratic. And when he was just physically slowed down, he just quit. I don't think it had anything to do with Mr. Penny. I think it had to do with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I have to say to Daniel Penny is good on you for showing how to act in the face of adversity. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to turn out to be a model citizen. I think if they put him before a grand jury, it's going to be hard to charge the guy, especially if the people around him come and say that he protected them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what Marines do. They care about the people around them, and they'll step in. You know, they'll put their bodies in the way. Semper Fi, sir. Mr. Durham, I guess, is still investigating. Didn't we hear about him like a decade ago? There was going to be this Durham guy. Anyway, I guess he's doing his job. He's got unlimited funds, and his report now shows that the FBI had no evidence on Trump during the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. In effect, they wouldn't have been able to bring charges if they brought their information before a grand jury. So somebody's used their office at the Department of Justice to try to steamroll a president and former candidate, former presidential candidate. So that's terrible news that the FBI has been used in a terrible way. I love the FBI. The FBI are great people. They've done some marvelous things for us, and to have their organization be I can't say the word. Not put in a favorable light is just a shame. Sorry to hear it, guys. I know most of you are doing a great and good job, so keep it up, and I think we'll get through this leadership that's been a problem. And that came to us, that little information by Durham came to us from Newsmax. I happen to like Newsmax. They've got quite a bit of good information. They're not perfect. They've got some good information occasionally, and that came from Chris Salito. So, great. Good information from the Durham report. But we kind of knew that. Okay. Our friends over in the United Kingdom are sending our friends in the Ukraine some brand new long-range cruise missiles with the capability of reaching deep into Russia, being able to penetrate deep, and but they have a deal with Zelensky and his government that they'll only be used to target sites of military interest within the Ukraine territory. And that includes, the Donbass and Luhansk area. But not Russia. That absolutely could never happen. We hope. So they kind of want, the United States to send a bunch of cruise missiles. That's what the UK does, is they send 3 missiles and ask you so that they can, shame the United States into sending 3,000. I think there's some disparity there. I think it's like Parliament trying to wag the dog sort of thing. And I think the weapons we've been sending to Ukraine have been very useful to this point. I'm not sure we need to send more. So we have Moldovans coming to our southern border. Why are people in Moldova next to Ukraine coming to our southern border? Well, it turns out our friends in Russia have blown the major bridges in Moldova between Romania and Moldova, so that there's a gorge there that goes down the center of the country. And by blowing that bridge, now Romania, if they were going to send heavy armor to help Ukraine, they could not go through Moldova again. So because Moldova is right by the south of Ukraine, right on the Black Sea, it looks like our friends in Russia are eyeing the ports there. So there on the Black Sea, they want to have control of a warm water port. They don't have it in the north. They don't have it in the Baltic, and they don't even really have a warm water port in the Pacific. All of them can be iced up at times, and requiring them to use icebreakers. And they do have a number of icebreakers, and even some nuclear-powered icebreakers, but they're very, very expensive to run. And they would like to have a warm water port, and that warm water port they've decided is, the Black Sea. So it puts a number of places in jeopardy, particularly Odessa. If you're listening to us from Odessa, think about moving to Kiev. No, seriously, think about moving to Kiev. It might not be a good thing, especially if we have Moldovans racing to our southern border halfway around the world. They're thinking, your neighbors there in Moldova are thinking, we're not so sure we want to be run over by the Russian bear. And Moldova also has a port right there, and I'm going to butcher this name. It's a long name, but I'm going to try to say it. It's Olek, Sandrika, and Berlakha Baltica. So they're ports on each side of the river there that is attached to the Black Sea. All right, we got to go to another page. We've got lots of pages, Ellie.
Okay.
Lots of pages. So over at MonkeyWorks, we're having some disturbing reports, very disturbing reports. During the last 60 days, it turns like we've had a massive, let me say it again, massive airlift. And it's been airlifted into the Pacific in the direction of Hawaii, and then we don't know where those aircraft are going. But when MonkeyWorks showed the traffic and where it looks busy. When he did it, they showed an overlay of the United States, and it looked like somebody just piled spaghetti on top of it. So there's like a map of spaghetti just dumped on it, all in the direction of Hawaii. It's amazing. Okay, that's good information. So if anybody wonders what the government's thinking about towards the east, I guess everybody now knows. All right, moving on. I hope I'm not being too rambunctious today, but I'm feeling a little rambunctious. Miss Sally's come and got her treats from me. She's headed to her corner bed, and she's giving me the jaundice eye, so I'm safe. All right, moving on. Israel and Gaza. Gaza's been firing rockets at Israel, and Israel's been, smashing the rocket sites. So, but good news, there's a ceasefire as of today, and it seems to be holding. If it doesn't, I'm concerned that it may be war, because this is, I think, the second or third ceasefire. And Israel only goes through so many ceasefires before they throw in the ceasefire towel and go all out. So if you're in Gaza and your neighbors want to shoot some rockets, I'm thinking, I don't know, Jordan, Syria, or get on a plane, Egypt.
What about Iran funding Hamas for all the weapons and missiles?
Well, yeah, it's Iran doing it, of course, but I'm just talking about the people that aren't involved. If you don't want to be involved, don't be where it happens, because that's the only way you can protect yourself. Vote by your feet. Don't get slaughtered in the process, please, folks. All right, moving on. There's been a presidential election in Turkey, as well as other election, I guess. And there was no clear winner. And so, Erodian has a weird first name. It's like Tayyip, Tayyip, or what's so. I can't remember how the Ys are flipped in Europe. Anyway, and his rival is Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Wow, I really butchered those. Anyway, it's an election, and they're putting up what they believe Turkey's future should be, and the people are voting on it, and they're a NATO ally, and to both of them, good luck, and may the best man win. Next page. Oh my goodness. I just dropped some stuff from my vacuum down between the stove and refrigerator. I'll dig it out with a hook, I guess. Anyway, China is upset. I have never seen China upset before. Have you, Ellie? I mean, really? China? Get angry? God, if they just quit getting angry. Anyway, it's about Australia rearming. They're very upset about this again. Especially because the United States is building and going to send nuclear attack submarines to Australia. And, in World War II, most of the shipping, I'm not talking about like attack vessels, I'm just talking shipping vessels, were sunk by submarines, both in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. Submarines are the great equalizer. So China is upset about it, and to be more angry because Australia's just finished their development on a brand new frigate for coastal defense, and is going to be selling it to Australia's allies. It turns out to be a pretty good boat. It's fast, sleek. It can get out 200 miles and do a major patrol, and they're really looking forward to using them. I understand that our friends over in New Zealand have got a few of them, and some are turning up in the Atlantic in some of these island nations. So good on them for designing and building an acceptable frigate that gets the job done fast and does it with the least amount of money that they can spend. That's good for them. So here in the United States, it's spring. Guess everybody kind of knew that, but the planting is underway and in a lot of places finished, and we've already had some of the first grass cut for the hay harvest. So to our farmers here in the United States and also our friends up in north in Canada, their farmers, good luck. I guess John Kerry has made some sort of a comment, and he hasn't been heard much from now for a little while. It turns out that his comment may have been a little bit of political suicide. So I don't know what the comment was, but I know that there's some folks wondering, where is John Kerry? It turns out he's a little tone deaf when it comes to the climate. That's a surprise. Now, voters want clean air. Americans want clean air. But, you can't see, taste, or even know carbon dioxide is in the air. It doesn't create pollution. You can see through it. If your house is full of it, you wouldn't know it was there except for it displaces oxygen, when you take the big sweep. But, it's tasteless, odorless, colorless. Carbon dioxide is what plants breathe in, and then they breathe out oxygen that we breathe. So I don't know, this climate thing. I think they're off to the wrong direction. I think they should be looking at clean air. So we can have, not be having our eyes irritated, stuff like that. Of course, carbon dioxide doesn't do any of that. It's part of nature. So, yeah, as far as it affecting climate, who knows? Anyway, what we do know is the price of energy has gone through the roof because they don't want us creating carbon dioxide from natural gas, using it for energy. But, natural gas has been the one thing that has cleaned air in the United States up more than anything in history. The United States has some of the cleanest air on a planet, and it was because of natural gas. So when we don't drill it, we end up with dirtier energy, or energy that's isn't always available. If the wind stops and the sun doesn't shine, you don't get energy through passive means, and so you have to generate energy in some other way, or let your voters down. All right, next page. Here we go. I went and bought a brand new notebook, Kelly, so I have lots of pages now. So, what do we got here? Oh, to Lee, about the body cavity heroin and cocaine during the late 60s and 70s. So, yeah, there was a lot of heroin and cocaine that was sent back in the bodies of our dead veterans. number of three-letter agencies that were involved, and I'm not even going to go into that. But what I will say is, around our military bases, there was a terrible problem. We had aircraft being returned to the United States that were literally packed. They would take the panels off the airplane and pack it full of marijuana. So it was like they would come in like hay wagons. And they would fly them across the Pacific that way. Extremely dangerous. But, any way they could get it there. My father was first hired to clean up that mess next to one of the military bases. He was a Marine, and they figured he could get that job done. So that was back when our community just had a 3-man police force. Before they had a radio, before they had the lights on top of the vehicles, but back in the ancient world, you know what I'm talking about, Elliot.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean about policing in the ancient times before they had radios and lights and cell phones. The police were on their own. And it was just a real problem during the Vietnam era around the military bases. So that's just to add to Lee's. Now, reparations. Ellie, if I'm not going to get into whether it's warranted or not, but I don't think that reparations should be a short-term thing. Why not have folks that have genetics from prior slaves get to reparations? Because not everybody was a slave that was black, and we had whites that were slaves as well. I don't know if people realize that. So yeah, there was a lot of slavery with the Irish and with some of the Germans in the United States. So if you were family, you're a descendant of a slave, and you're going to do reparations, I think they should do it with a package, not with just a check. So like job prioritization, if they're qualified, not unqualified people, but qualified. School prioritization, help them move from the property they're in, and help them get to a new job. There's a lot of people in the United States that are in terrible situations just because they can't sell their home and move to a good job someplace else. Giving them the ability to do that, setting up a system for that, I think would be helpful. Reduce their taxes.
Yeah.
That would get the economy hopping. It's good for everybody. Help them with health care for a period of time when they start a new job, and help them with their housing, and maybe even help them with moving to new housing. That's what the military's done forever for its veterans. It has to move families all over, and that's what they do. They just they don't give them tax cuts, but they help them move. They have a system set up so there's somebody on the other end that's looking out for you and helping them, a mentor. This could be done for the descendants of slaves, and then then help them with a little bit of money so they can get into maybe a better house, better living situation. Maybe they want a car, something like that. I think people would be a lot better off that way, because then it's not just a check. It's something that'll be multi-generational. They'll have something to hand down to their children. They'll have something to have a happier life. Maybe go on vacations they would never be able to go to because they were able to become employed in something that's
Mhm.
more something they want to do rather than they're stuck with doing because they live someplace and they can't get out because of a mortgage. Anyway, and then you talked about riots during the 60s, right? Race
Yes.
riots.
Yes, I was a big part of it.
You know, in the beginning, when we had aircraft carriers going in to Vietnam, all right, they were some of the first warships to arrive, and we had an uprising on the USS Kitty Hawk, and the black and whites went at it for I think it was 2 or 3 days. It was god awful, but afterwards, that was the point at where our military became truly integrated. After that, everybody pretty much got along, but they had to work it out, in mass on that ship. And once that had happened, then the other boats in the Navy decided that, it had been hashed out that our friends of color could have all the jobs that our folks that, have lighter skin had. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But I don't think people realize that happened on the USS Kitty Hawk. And you talked about JFK's assassination. So Sirhan assassinated Bobby Kennedy. I'm sorry, not JFK, but Bobby Kennedy, RFK. And he assassinated him he was leaving the ballroom at the Ambassador Hotel and was assassinated as he entered the kitchen in 1968, I believe. And so in that area around the Ambassador Hotel, I don't know if folks know this, but the CIA had an operation going with LSD. And the LSD was being imported everywhere into that area and trafficked in that area. And I've wondered for a long time if Sirhan did end up with a drink with stuff like that in it or whatever. Anyway, it's too bad we lost Bobby Kennedy. He was an excellent lawyer, and he was a real great director at the Department of Justice. That was a shame. Okay. So, Ellie, as I listen to Lee's program, there's a government we all see, the police department, waterworks. Then we see other companies that are quasi-government, like the power company, hospitals, doctors' offices. We have, jails. We have the police that are around. We have paramedics, our fire departments. All these are white governments. We'll call them white governments. But there's a black government out there too. There's a government we never see, especially outside the United States, like the CIA. And there are other governments around the world who have black governments that are in the United States. Okay? So we need to understand that they exist. Well, between this white government and between these black government agencies, either ours or somebody else's, there's a gray government. There's a government that's been grandfathered. Before we had police departments and mayors and whatnot, we just had community leaders. And these community leaders that in many cases were left behind and they may have been just attorneys, they may have been doctors, they may have been business leaders, they've been, religious leaders, and they became. Some of them got involved in a gray government. Some people probably heard of Star Chamber. So they're a part of a gray government that's trying to take care of a justice system the justice system can't handle, because we have situations the justice system is just really incapable of dealing with. And so those have grown up over time. And just like we've had that, we've had police agencies that have got involved with individuals they've decided not to prosecute. But instead, what they've decided is to use them as informants. And these informants get involved with criminal activity. And that criminal activity can become a government itself. Gangs are a type of government. Drug trafficking is a type of government. And because it's tied to our police, because they get tied to our FBI, they're part of our government. And so when you see some of this human trafficking, it has tentacles into our white government. People like our major businesses, NGOs, Department of Family Services. These people all deal with some of these folks that are unsavory. They're the people that are forced to deal with it. Even sometimes church leaders have to deal with them. And so they get these tentacles into this gray government, and this gray government operates without controls. And we do see trafficking involved in those governments. So I just like to explain that a little bit to folks. Ellie and I could probably go into it deeper, but there's complete operations like MK Ultra. There were CIA operations during the 60s where they were using prostitution and LSD to get information out of folks. On the West Coast, there was the Tavistock Institute that happened, where we got a lot of our musicians out of. On the West Coast, we had a whole bunch of stuff going on the East Coast, and it's kind of a gray government because there's quasi control of it, but there's not full control of it. And when it does its own thing, it gets away with things that it shouldn't get away with, because it gets protected to a degree by the very agencies that should be controlling it. But they want information rather than prosecutions. It's a real difficult problem. And I really feel for Lee. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys. So that's what I have for today. Ellie, do you have something you'd like to
No.
Ukraine is in a terrible situation. It's stagnating on its front lines. Bakhmut's just going back and forth. It's a meat grinder. That's all that I know about really in Ukraine right now. It's really a travesty. On the military front, I think that's really all that I've heard that's really going on that's of importance in the government right now. But I don't know much about Sudan right now. And that could be become an African quagmire, especially if South Africa gets involved, or one of the North African nations get involved. It'll be interesting to see, because this is basically a civil war between two major military leaders that have fractured the government's military, and the military has begun to fight each other. And in the process, civilians just get wrecked. So that's a bad deal. that's what I have for our military part. But like you can see, we kind of bounce around everywhere, and I thought that rather than just drilling down deep into some type of the news, that this is Monday, we're going to have some deep news come up, usually by Tuesday, and I just wanted to give you a taste of what's out there in the news sphere. So I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks, Ellie, for giving me the opportunity to say a few things. I don't know if you wanted me to talk about us being rubbed, shall I say, by someone, or go on and just forget about that.
I think we can forget about that. So,
okay, moving on. Thanks, folks, for listening in. Hope you have a good day, the rest of your day and tomorrow. Come back and enjoy Ellie. We all do. And what was it? Oh, I remember now. Be sure to, like, subscribe, get noticed.
thumbs up.
So that you're going to hear us. We have over 100 listeners now. We broke the 100 mark, which is a big deal for us because, we were down to 6 when they stomped on us and took away all of our listeners. So, we got shadow banned. So
We got over
great.
700 on Facebook.
That's just YouTube. That's just
Yeah.
YouTube.
We got over
That doesn't
700 and
include any other platforms.
right. And then our joke page has 690 something now.
Yeah. So our news is pretty good here. We try to give you quality news and bring
Truth in
important
news.
situations to light. And like I said, Ellie and I have got we got rubbed because of the information we're giving you. And good. That means we're doing the right thing. So thanks, Ellie. And we'll sign off now and see you next Monday.
Wednesday.
Oh, I'm going to be on Wednesday. All right.
The World War III report.
All right. I'll be
Okay.
on the World War III report. Because
Sorry about that.